let's write this one down. Follow the steps. Like I told you guys, if you get confused, then just do one step at a time for each problem. So, here's the problem. We got 8x plus y, and leave a space there for a reason, equals 8. And then the next equation, negative 7x plus 2y equals 16. Who remembers the first step?
Fill in for variables.
LCM. Fine.
Convert.
There you go. Want to make sure it's in standard form, ax plus by equals c, which it is. Let's go to the next step. Fill in the missing coefficients. I'm just going to go back and do it on the front page rather than rewrite it. So what's the missing coefficient in this question?
Y.
Okay, good. So it's going to become 1y. All right. That's easy, right? Now we have all the numbers we need, so let's go on to the next step. Actually, let's check that one off. Find the least common multiple of the coefficients of one of the variables. Like I said, if you just want to simplify it, then you can go with the x coefficients. Okay, but actually usually the smaller one is easier.
So the Y coefficient?
So you could look at the y coefficients. I think that at the end of the day, the smaller number is the easier. So we'll do y this time, okay? So the first coefficient is 1y, and the next one is 2. What's the least common multiple of 1 and 2?
1.
It's 2. The GCF might be 1.
So we multiply the rest by 2.
Okay, so we're only going to multiply the top equation by 2 because the bottom one is already 2. Okay? We want to make sure both equations have that LCM. So we're going to multiply them both by that. I'm going to have to rewrite the expressions here. Okay, so only the top needs to be multiplied by 2 because the bottom y coefficient already has the 2. So again, the reason we chose the y this time is because the numbers are smaller. It's easier to deal with that. It's going to be less work. Okay, so when we do that, I'm just going to make a new screen here because I don't think I have any. So to get 16x plus 2y equals 8. We're going to rewrite the bottom as negative 7x plus 2y. Oh, thank you. It should be 16, thank you.
Okay.
Do what?
Can I go to the rest?
Yes. All right, who remembers the next step from there? So now we've got both of those are 2's for the y's. What do we need to do next? Yes, we're going to multiply one of them by negative 1. It actually doesn't matter which one you multiply. I think I told you guys to do the first, right? Or was it the second?
The second.
Okay, so we'll multiply the second one by negative 1. All right, let's read that step together. Multiply the second equation by negative 1. Good. All right, so I'll just go back and do it on the previous slide so I don't have to rewrite it. My computer's being slow today. Oh, wrong slide. There we go. So this entire equation, I'm just going to put a negative in front of it, and it's going to change the whole thing to what? 7x minus 2y equals negative 16. So let's just rewrite both equations on top of each other for the next step. All right, now that we've multiplied that out, we can add the equations. So on the top we have 16x plus 2y equals 16. In the bottom it's 7x minus 2y. equals negative 16. All right, so let's add these. I'll just put a parentheses around the second. What's 16x plus 7x? 23x. If you did it right, those y's will cancel, or your x's, depending on which one you choose. And then finally, 16 plus negative 16.
And the 0?
0. So we get 23x equals 0. Next step, solve for a variable. So remember, there's another variable to solve for. There's two, which is why it says a variable. In this case, we'll be solving for x. It's 23x, what's it say? 23x equals 0. All right, how would you solve for x from here? There's a shortcut and an easy one. Yes. I'll give it to you in a second. Yeah, divide by 23. But what's 0 over 23? Just 0, okay? So when you eliminate y, you solve for x first. That's okay. Then you can plug in that value and solve for y. So the next step is to plug that variable, spelled that wrong. Yeah, variable, exactly. Now, you might be wondering, which equation do I plug it into? Does anybody want to answer that?
You plug it into the top.
Okay, you can plug it into the top. You can plug into the bottom as well. We'll plug it into the top. Usually the easier one the better. So we're going to plug x equals 0 into the top equation.
Wait, is that a trick question?
We had, it's either one. But I do normally plug it into the top. So 8 times 0 plus y equals 8. Yes.
Is this
8 times 0 is 0, right? So it just becomes y equals 8.
Oh, that's easy.
So we get x equals 0 and y equals 8. He was asking about checking and plugging back in. Can almost do it mentally. I'll just go back to the question in a second. We'll work it out. Why not? All right. So that's we just solved for the variable. Did it in all one step. But step 10 is to solve for the variable. Once you plug it in, once you plug that in, I'll put that on a different slide here.
Mr. Underwood,
Yes.
can I go to the restroom?
Sure. Okay. So do you need to check by plugging back in? Not really, especially if you get whole numbers back. But we're going to do it anyways. Let's just write out both solutions. We got x equals 0, right? Y equals 8. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, we can plug them back to the equation. For the first one, it would be 8 times 0 plus 8. Does that equal 8? Yes. Let's plug into the bottom to make sure. Has to work for both equations. Negative 7 times 0 plus 2 times 8. Does that equal 16? The answer is yes, because 2 times 8 is 16, and that's 0, right? So you don't have to do that step, but I would recommend it, especially if you get done early. All right, so you guys can work on these. There's a few I want you to hold off on right now. Just hold off on the last 3. 10, 11, and I'm sorry, the last. Hold off on 10 through 16 because it's a little bit harder.
And then you got number